All right, I think we should get started. And we may have some folks who join us later, and that's great. Good afternoon and welcome to Level 2, Session 3 of the Berklee Music Education and Special Needs Study Group. I'm Dr. Rhoda Bernard, the Managing Director of the Berklee Institute for Arts Education and Special Needs, and we are thrilled to have you here today. I'm going to start off with a few logistics, which I need to fast forward in this slide. You've seen this slideshow, but just a few logistics for us at the outset. And then we have a wonderful presenter here today, Tomas Marquez, who'll be working with you on music technology, as well as working with students with high support needs. And then we'll do a few logistics at the very end. So this is our set schedule of synchronous sessions. We are on Saturday, April 3rd. We're with Tomas Marquez. 2 weeks from now on April 17th, there will be a session in the morning on assessment with me, and then on choral ensembles for people with disabilities with Andrew Clark from Harvard University. In the afternoon, Shana Pistilli will work with us on adaptive notation and instrumental ensembles. 2 weeks later, on May 1st, there will be a morning session on differentiation of instruction and behavior management, 2 different sessions, both led by Victoria Laricia. And then in the afternoon, there'll be music learning theory with Krista Yadro, and special education strategies for arts education that I will lead. And then 2 weeks later, on May 15th is our last day when we do projects. Projects are presented and Vicki Laricia and I will be providing feedback. So as you know, session video recordings are sent out the following Monday, along with slides and materials from the presenters. So you'll be able to watch the recordings, and our asynchronous folks will be able to engage with the work. If you want to have full participation in the study group and receive a certificate of participation, which in Massachusetts is also professional development points, you must do the following. You must attend 18 hours of sessions. That can be level 1, level 2, or a mixture of both. It can be synchronous or asynchronous or a mixture of both. You must also do the between session engagement Google document activities. So in my post session emails every 2 weeks, there are links to 2 Google documents, the between session engagement for right after the session you just saw, where you'll be writing in your thoughts and reflections about the session you just saw, and the ongoing project ideas document, which we'll look at the end of our time today. And then that is the last requirement, which is creation and presentation of a study group project. We will be sending out certificates of participation in 2 batches. One batch pretty soon after we finish in mid-May, and then we'll wait about a few weeks, and then we'll get another batch for the folks who will have finished asynchronous participation a little later. So the study group project is an application of some aspect of what you learn in the study group to your very own situation. So it is quite individual and quite personal. There are some examples listed here, but the important thing is that beyond just having a good experience and learning from the presenters and being engaged, what's going to make this learning most meaningful and most impactful for all of you is if you can take this learning and in some way immediately apply it. Right? So that's what we're looking for here. Projects are works in progress. We do not expect beautiful, neat, tied with a bow projects after just a 12-week study group. So you're going to make that application and do some work around that and give us a snapshot of what you've done as you're applying what we're working on. Depending on what you're doing, the deliverable is going to look different. So what you create to document your project depends on what you're doing for your project. In our final 2 sessions on May 15th, we will have project presentations. I'm saying here under 10 minutes, but I actually think we're going to try to keep them to 5 minutes max, these presentations, because we have so many people who are working on projects. Some people just present their project by speaking, by giving an oral presentation. Some use some sort of visual if it relates directly to the project and is a good way of documenting it. Vicki Laricia and I will provide live feedback. And for folks who are participating asynchronously, but who want feedback on their projects, we'll talk about this as we get closer, but you just send them to me and I make sure they get airtime in the session and that we provide feedback as well. We want you to start thinking about your project sooner rather than later. I know we haven't done all of the learning yet, and your ideas may morph and change over the course of your time with us, but we don't want a situation people are trying to cram a project at the last minute. So there's a Google document. It's been shared after every session. When I send out the Monday emails, I share a link to that document, and we'll look at that at the end of our session. So that gives you an idea of what the projects are. The other thing that I wanted to look at, I need to set up for us again. So hang on just a second. And there it is. Okay, so let me unshare and reshare so that you can see a new window. Google Chrome. Perfect. So a lot of people are asking questions about our Able Assembly conference. Our Able Assembly Arts Better the Lives of Everyone conference is April 10th and 11th, next weekend, online. You can participate synchronously or asynchronously, but you have to be registered for the conference in order to have access to the content. Registration closes on Monday, April 5th. This is the conference website that shows the schedule, and the schedule is the same both days. We start at noon Eastern time with a synchronous keynote presentation that will be recorded, and the recording will be available to conference registrants after the fact. The Saturday keynote is by Emmeline Bingham, who is a music educator and conductor on the autism spectrum. And then after the keynote, there's a pre-recorded musical performance on Saturday. The performance is by the Merry Rockers. They are a reggae band fronted by a young woman with cerebral palsy and visual impairment. And then from 1 to 4, you have pre-recorded sessions to watch. And they are all around our conference theme, which is intersectionality, disability, and arts education. That theme came directly out of discussions during the synthesis sessions when we were discussing the field and issues in the field back in October at our 2020 conference. So these sessions are all on that topic, all different art forms, all different disabilities, but around the topic of intersectionality, disability, and arts education. At 4:00 p.m., we come back together for a synthesis session where that day's presenters are there, and we have a discussion that is not recorded. And then at 5:00, we have a live networking session to hang out for a little bit, get to know each other. That is also not recorded. The same structure happens the second day. The second day's keynote on Sunday is Antoine Hunter, who is a deaf dancer, and he'll be talking about his work. And then we have the pre-recorded performance by Adam Walden on the cello. He is a cellist with autism. Then we have another set of pre-recorded sessions from 1 to 4 p.m., still on the conference theme, and then the same day-ending synthesis session and open networking session that are not recorded. So in order to get access to all of this content, you need to register for the conference before April 5th or no later than April 5th. I will put the registration link to the site in the chat. Whoops. That is the link to where you can go to register for the conference, and that gives you more information about the event. We are super excited about the event this year. It's going to be fantastic. So Tomas, I think we are ready for your presentation to begin for us. So I'd like to introduce to you Tomas Marquez, who is a music educator who has been working with students with autism for more than 10 years. He began his career in this work in Puerto Rico. And speaking of the Able Assembly Conference, a number of years ago, gosh, what is it now? 6 or 7 years ago, I think, Tomas.
Maybe, yeah.
He came to the Able Assembly. It was before the merger, so the conference was under a different name. It was called Teaching Music to Students on the Autism Spectrum. It was a narrower focus and a different name back at Boston Conservatory. He came to the conference, and the conference was different then. We didn't have breakout sessions. We were all in one room the whole time for two and a half days. And Tomas immediately distinguished himself because he was in the room with all of us and literally in every session had the most questions. He was the one always asking questions, which was great. And we got to talking, and it turned out that that weekend was also the recital for our arts education programs. And Tomas came to the recital and saw our students perform and stayed in touch with us. And since came to Boston, enrolled in and graduated from our Master of Music and Music Education with a concentration in music and autism, now teaches at the May Institute and also does all kinds of great professional development and is really a specialist, I think, in working with technology in all different ways, and has a lot of really valuable experience in an area that doesn't get enough focus in published literature or in professional development work, and that is working with students with high support needs. A lot of what's out there is for students with much lower support needs. And I remember when Tomas would be in my class, he would often say, "This book is terrific that we just read, but it doesn't get my students." Or we would have the authors of these books. I was fortunate to be able to have folks come in and speak, and he would say, "I really like your book, but did you know that you did not talk about my students?" So Tomas did his master's thesis project, a fascinating project that hopefully will expand and grow, a pilot study survey about what music teachers are doing in their classes, what practices are happening, what knowledge do people have, where are the gaps, right, in actual classroom practice in music education settings for students with autism, which is a fantastic project that I'm excited to see where that goes. And today he's going to share with you his big areas of expertise. So I'm going to hand it over to Tomas, and welcome.
All right. Okay, let me check that I have everything here, I suppose. Oops, okay, all right. So let me start by sharing my screen. We're gonna start with the music technology. Yes. Okay, I think I got it right. Okay, all right, very good. Okay, so I have the chat open here. As always, you can write, ask questions, write comments.
Laura is monitoring the chat too, so she can
Okay,
help you, so you don't have to have your consciousness split. You can stay
okay,
focused, and Laura will help you with that.
all right, very good. Thank you, Laura. So, um, all right. So first of all, I think Dr. Bernard did a very good introduction of myself. I don't. So I'm gonna talk the parts that she didn't mention. All right, which wasn't that many. All right. So I'm from Puerto Rico, so you know a little bit about me. I'm from Puerto Rico. In case you have heard that, where we're not a country, we're a territory of the United States. We're not a state, we're a territory. We had a couple of years ago, we had Hurricane Maria. You remember that? You remember Puerto Rico, right? And I was there. Very scary experience. But that's the reason I'm here today with you guys doing this conference, right? Sorry, this study group. Because after that, I decided to come here and study my master's degree in Boston Conservatory at Berklee with Dr. Bernard. Um, and that gave me also a lot of opportunities here. As she said, I work at the May Institute, which is a all autism school or developmental disorders, right? We have those kind of students. And I teach from, I think, 5, 6 year old up to 22, which is the age, the limit age when they can stay with us. So I have my instrument. It's piano. It's the piano. That's the instrument. My main instrument. I've been a special education teacher in 3 schools in 13 years. I have moved a lot around a lot. All of them have been private, although I did my practice in public school. I've been teaching in private. It's not by decision, it's just the way it was. And I have worked a lot of positions. I work as a music teacher, as a staff, paraprofessional, teacher assistant. Even from 1 year, I was a lead teacher in a classroom and the music teacher at the same time. Crazy. Also, I've been teaching piano for around 21 years. 13 of those with students with autism, and that's how I started with teaching piano. That's how I started with special education and especially with autism. Um, I also teach piano at the Saturday program at Berklee. Like I said, I work at the Main Institute. I have my master's degree. I also received the Music Education Award in graduation. And I also have presented for the last 3 years, I think I have presented in the ABLE Assembly and different topics about autism. So before I start with the presentation about music technology, I want to let you all know a little bit about what I'm going to be talking in this presentation. So I'm going to talk about a lot of materials, very practical things that I have been acquiring during the years, and I've been searching, and things that I've been using in my classroom with my students. Some of them work very good. Some work with some students, not with others. This is not a one size fits all, okay? Some of the things I'm going to present here, maybe you'll see it and you say, maybe you think, okay, so that's very good. I'm going to use it all with all my students. That's going to solve a lot of problems. Maybe, maybe not. My experience tells me that these things I'm going to show you today work with some students, with others doesn't work that well. Maybe a couple of things you can use with all your students are going to be perfect, but you have to adapt these things to your classroom, to your teaching, your comfortable level of teaching, right, with technology, and with your students, the necessities of your students. So just so you know that. So just as a short introductions, there isn't a lot of music instruments specifically designed for special education. There are some, I'm going to show them today, at least the ones I found that I know. And others are very expensive. The ones that are designed specifically with special education in mind are very expensive. And if you think about it, most of what a lead teacher in a classroom does is just adapt the materials, adapt the curriculum to the special to their kids, right, to their students. So that's what I've been doing with all the things I'm going to show you today, and been adapting them to my class. Some of them are not designed with special education in mind. I just found a very good use to them in my class with my students. So I use a lot of games and gadget, right? Then I adapt them. So this is some of the reasons I use them, right? Like I said, lack of musical instruments. Also, if you're teaching music to, for example, my students, I have worked through all the spectrum, right? All the spectrum. Right now, I'm working more with severe students, and if if you're teaching music to them through games, it's going to be even more engaging, more fun, because I'm going to talk about this in my other presentation. They have problems focusing and having and concentrating and working long periods of time. So if you do it through games and iPad, things like that, they're going to be even more engaged. So I want to start with some music therapy accessories that I found when I started. The first thing I said, okay, I'm going to go to music therapy. Let's see what they got. So this is some of the things I found out. As you see, I mean, the first one you see over here, let's see if I can get my pointer here. Okay, this one over here is for holding the recorder, right? This one here is a pick for a guitar, so it's easier for the student to hold. This one is for a triangle, right? You can put a triangle here, and it's easier to play. This one over here, it's I'm still trying to figure it out. What is that? I think it's more like a block to play, right? Something like that, and it has a Velcro, so you can attach to the student, to the hand of the student, right? So you can hold it better. Most of the things I look at them and say, well, this is this really doesn't work for me. You know, I don't think I have much use for them. So I started looking for musical instruments or technology, especially for special education. So I found, this is some of the ones I found. The Q Core, maybe you have known, you have heard of this one before. Very good. It's from Suzuki, the Method Suzuki, but it's around $300. This one here is the beams. It has laser beams, right? They don't look like this, obviously, but they are invisible laser beams. And then when you put your hand through it, you stop the beam and you trigger a note or a sample or a loop or a sound, whatever, right? This one here, I think I found that in some special ed magazine. It's to play the handbells, but I mean, if the student can play these buttons here, he can play the handbells over here, right? I use desk bells. These are desk bells. I use a lot of my desk bells with my students because it's very easy to play them. But at least, again, very expensive. And last, the sound beam, 3,000. I would love to have one of these in my classroom, but it's too expensive for me. This one, you trigger notes with how far you are, how far is your hand from this here. Looks like a microphone. It's not a microphone. It's more like it shoots a laser beam. It rebounds from your hand and goes back, and depending on how far is your hand, you trigger notes, right? And you also have these pads here that you press on them and you can trigger more notes. But again, most of the things are expensive, and I can really buy like 3 of these for my students. It's gonna be too expensive. So what is the solution? So I started looking around, and okay, before we go with the all the gadgets I'm gonna show you, some things I wanna just tell you. I'm gonna present very different and affordable alternative. Okay, I'm gonna try to present to you the pros and cons of everything. I'm gonna try to present to you examples of how I use it in my classroom, and I'm gonna present different levels of technology. Okay, so I'm gonna present things that are gonna be very cheap and very easy to use, and then I'm gonna present other things that are way out there for very advanced persons, know a lot of technology. So I'm gonna try to present like a whole range of things, and you decide what fits better for you and for your students. So some things I want to left clear. I'm not gonna be a tutorial for all the things. I'm gonna show you the things I have here and a little bit how they work, and that's it. Because if I go very deep into all of them, I'm not gonna have enough time. I'm gonna talk a lot about my experience with my students specifically. And also, just so you know, I'm not getting paid for any of this. All these companies that develop all the things, I'm not getting paid by all of them. I just think they're wonderful things to use with my students and maybe your students also. So, again, ask me questions. Don't be afraid. I know we're doing this kind of webinar thing. I like better to see you, be in person, all of that, but I guess this is COVID right now, so we're gonna do it like this. But ask me questions, ask me comments, tell me comments if you have any, all right? So the way I think about technology in my classroom is I use it just as assistive technology. Just as a student uses an iPad to communicate, I use it the same way. But instead of communicating, it's for playing music or composing music. I also see it to help the student integrate into my class with other students, right? If, for example, playing piano, for example, right? If we're playing piano and this can't play the piano because challenges or difficulties, right, with fine motor, maybe I can find something else that I can help the student play the piano, right, in another different way. I do prefer real instruments. But sometimes real instruments are too challenging for my students. So I try to find something that they can play instead of real instruments. I do use the things I'm going to again the things I'm going to show you today. I do use everything in my class all the time, every day. Okay, I just use it. Maybe if we're playing, if we're working with composing, right? I'm going to use 13 Sings for that lesson plan. Some things here I may use them occasionally, and others I may rarely use it because it depends on my necessity of the students. Um, and again, one size does not fit all. I want you to have that in mind, right? This is not like the solution for all problems, right? This is going to depend on all students. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to start with this cook. Maybe you have seen this one, maybe not. I have one here. Okay, I have 3 of these in my class. So each one of these here is around 200. This one is designed with special education in mind, although it can be used by anyone. It has 2 iPad applications you can download for free, and the way it works is on the application you have the colors. As you can see, there's each size has a different color, and the application show you circles, right, with the colors, and you press the color of the circle you see in the iPad, and that's how you read the music and you play music. You can connect it also to Garageband and use sounds from Garageband, although the application comes with its own sounds. They're not very good, but you can use them. One thing that I like about this is they don't need especially fine motor skills like playing piano or guitar or things like that. All you have to do is just press here. Okay, this is going to trigger the note on the iPad. Okay, just press here. Another thing that I like is you can use it with any students at any level. But one of the cons is that sometimes it tends to be very sensitive. Okay, you have to first you have to set it up with the application, and then you can start using it. But sometimes it's a little bit too sensitive, and also you have to hold it when you have it on the table. If you're trying to play it on the side, most of the students will topple it, or maybe it's going to be a little bit more difficult for them. So you have to hold it, or maybe have a base so it doesn't go sideways. But aside from that, I like it. It's very good. So this cook has a little brother called the squitch. Now, this one has only one bottom. Okay, only one, and this one only doesn't use batteries, which is good. It works with magnets. I never heard of this before. There's a magnet in here. Every time you press, you produce like a magnetic field with some magnets inside, right? And then the iPhone goes in here. All right, let me show you. I have mine here. I'm going to show you a video about this. So it goes like this. Okay? And then on the app, you're going to read the notes here and all that. The thing is that with this squitch, you can only play rhythm. Okay? You're going to see it in the video. So if you're playing the song, you're going to play the rhythm. Okay? So if you want, for example, if you're playing quarter notes, go like this. If you want a half note, then you leave it pressed down, okay? But there's no way to play different notes with the bottom. You're gonna do that on the app. You're gonna see. And also, something that I like very much is customers. You can customize it. You can put your own songs on the application, and you can play the chords. You can play notes. You can play sounds. You can play. It has different sounds, different piano, brass, strings, vibraphone, So give me 1 second. I'm gonna share with you a video of the squitch. Okay, so new share. All right, here it is. Okay, so that's the squitch. Again, it's very easy to play with my students. It's very easy for them to play melodies, play songs with it. But as you saw, you can only input the notes. You cannot input the rhythm. The rhythm, you're gonna do the rhythm here. Okay, so what's next? I already gave you a demo. Okay, coding jam. All right, so this one is from a company called Osmo. You need an iPad for this one. And you're gonna need a base. The base has a mirror here that you put on top of the iPad. You can see it there in the photo, on the image. So, the base, right, to put the iPad here. And then you have the blocks, okay? And this company, Osmo, they develop a lot of games, a lot of them about coding, computer coding. But they have one about music. And this one, I tend to use this one to help students compose songs, okay? And you do it with the blocks, okay? These blocks are magnetic, okay? I like the blocks because it's also very concrete. They're very concrete. They're manipulative. They can use them, okay? They can hold them, they can manage them, they can use them. And you can do, with this block, you're gonna see it on the video, I'm gonna show you with this block, you can create parts, different parts of the song. So this one is gonna have, for example, some rhythm or melody, and then another one is gonna have part B of the song, let's say. And it's very engaging, it's very, has a lot of colors, color coded, everything is color coded, so it's easier also for them. It's not that expensive. For the base and the block, it's 98. If by chance your school has a STEM program and they already have the base, it's only 59 for the blocks. You can use any blocks from the Osmo, but these ones, the musics, have the rest, right? The other ones are not going to have the rest. These ones have the rest, the music blocks. So, also, if you go to the Able block, you're gonna, I did a blog post about this, about how I'll use it in my class. The link is there. You're gonna have it when you have the presentation. If you wanna look it up, you can go over there and read that. I'm gonna share now with you a video of the coding jam. So that's the base, that's the mirror. You're gonna see that there's the iPad. So one thing, it only works with that iPad. It doesn't work with the new ones, with the Pro, the iPads Pro. They don't work. It doesn't work with that one. They haven't developed a base for that and a mirror for that, but it only works with those kind of iPads. So that's the main screen, right? It has the tutorials to help the students learn how to use. So you just match colors. I like that it also has the prompts. It gives the student the prompt of what he needs to do. You can do repetitions, right? Like play that 3 times. So it's just waiting for the student to place a block. You put it right there. It reads the block. This is the tutorial. You can turn around the arrow. And that circles, those circles you see around each one of those shapes is a different part of a melody or a different rhythm. So now we're gonna create a sequence. That's another thing they work here, sequences. So we have our first red. There we go, blue. And you start creating little pieces. With little pieces of music, melody, rhythm, you create a bigger one. And then you have 3 circles, the red, the blue, and the orange. There, and it gives you the prompt again, which I love that. I love the prompting. All right. When you finish your pattern, there you go. You finish the pattern, and then you go to the next musician. You have 3 musicians. You go to the next one. You create a pattern. This guy plays bass, the bass part. They're working with patterns. They're working with matching colors. There you go. Then if you go to another section in the app will make a short video with the song they did. That's a tutorial. If you go to the studio part, then you can go free with whatever you want to do. And it has a lot of characters. They have a lot of sounds, a lot of rhythms, melodies. I like this guy. This is like the electric guitar. Then you could create any pattern you want, as long as you want the pattern. That's the silence, the rest. So that's the block I was telling you about. So with that, you create a part. So that sequence I did there, I save it to the circle. So I just put the circle and I'm going to play back that. Then you can create different parts for the song. You can work form with them, musical form with them. Then you can put as many as you want there. Obviously, you have to move them around and find a good pattern that you like. Right, now I have my 2 parts there. Join them. So that's it. And if you want to repeat each part, you can put it number 2. And it's going to repeat each part 2 or 3 times or whatever times you want. Right? So, oh, sorry, I stopped that altogether. Where is it? Okay, let me read the chat. I have some things here. Okay, yeah, the block. Very good. All right, so, all right, let's keep going. So this one, it's Incredibox. Now, this one is, I would say it's more like a game, but you can use it with students to compose songs, okay? It's very inexpensive, only $4 in the Apple Store. The guy who did the app, he has a album on Spotify where you can go and listen to all the tracks that he did with all the sounds. It has he keeps adding more genres and styles. Right now he has 8. Um, Again, you can do with, you're gonna see that you can do rhythm, bass, chords, and melody. So you have those 4 basic parts right there. You can use it with the app. And the cool thing is that everything you're gonna hear on the app is beatboxing. It's here, he's with his mouth beatboxing. That he adds a lot of effects and a lot of things to it. So this is the, I'm gonna show you a video, but this is the main window of it. All right, here's the video. Let me share. And here we go. So one thing that okay, so another thing you can do with them is match. You have, I made those cards with the shapes. All right. And basically what you're doing is dragging the clothing and each accessory, a different part of the rhythm, the bass, the melody, the chord. Then what I do is I would show the student the card, right? Okay, match, found this one. Once you found it, you would drag it up. Then those circles you see up there, once you complete one of those circles, you get a little video. Then the cool thing is you can turn it off, you can mute them. All right, that's a very short video, but it's very cool. It's very engaging, that app. So that one can use it to compose songs, right? To work with rhythm, the different parts of a song: rhythm, bass, melody, chords. All right. So next one, it's called spectrums. Right. This one, it's, you can buy 2 different options. Either you buy the one with 2 rings. I have them here. Right. These are rubber rings that you put on your finger. All right. You can buy 2 rings or 1 ring. The application is free and it comes with this. Right. It's like, I don't know, what is this, like foam, right? And then the way it works is that it reads, this here, it has a sensor and it reads colors. All right. So you're gonna see a video also about this. So you put the ring, you hit here on the colors, right? Put this on the table, you hit the colors. Then each color is going to trigger either a note or a loop on the app. Again, I like them. I like this because they don't have to use any fine motor skills. With my students have a lot of challenges. Even with grow motor skills, they have challenges. So all you have to do is move your hand like this, okay? And also it's programmable. You can customize it with the sounds you want, with the instruments you want, with the loops you want, which you can customize your class or what you're doing. It's for iPad and iPhone. You can use it on both. But one of the cons is that it has a little bit of delay because it uses Bluetooth. These are Bluetooth. So it has a little bit of a delay, but it's not that big, but it may be a little bit of problem, but it's not that much. Don't worry. So let me show you a video. I end up using this one No, wait, this is the same video. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to find the video here. Seems like I lost it. Give me 1 second. Sorry. Okay, okay. Give me 1 second. I have it here. So the way I ended up using this one was, at least for me, in two ways. One was playing drums. So I was playing drums with my students. There were a couple of them that couldn't hold the sticks of the drums, right? Even with some adaptations, it was very difficult for them to hold it. So what I did, on the app there's sound samples of drums that you can use. So they end up playing the drums with the rings with their hands on the colors. Another thing that I use with is for the piano, to play the piano. Also, you can play loops with them. And the cool thing is, because it reads color, it reads any color. You don't have to necessarily use this. Like they can draw their own musical compositions, and with this, this is going to read the color on the drawings. I have tried on clothes, on walls, on fruits, anything that has a color, this is going to read it. And then those colors, you can assign sounds to it on the application. All right, I think I got it here now. Okay. So those are the rings. Put in your finger. Then you can add those 4 squares you see on the top. You can use them for major parts of the song or loop. Then the rectangles on the bottom with the fingers, you can use them for notes or different other loops that you can make with the song you're doing up there. Okay, and the piano. And you have the chords there. You can play either the piano or you can play chords with it. And again, you can assign any sound, any instrument you want to them. You can record your own sounds. Like for example, if let's say you can record an ukulele, chords from ukulele, and then put them into the app, and the student can play them with the rings. Right? So, okay. So next, this one I haven't used with my students because I don't play recorder with my students. But if you use a recorder, you can use this. All right, let me see if I get it right there. All right, so it has this rubber there. See, it has those rubber seals that you press and help the student close the holes on the recorder. Okay, also down here, finger use on the below also helps them with that. Then it has these rings here. You can take them off and use them as reinforcement for them. Okay, if you did a good job, I can give you 1 ring, 2 rings, 3 rings, right? So they have a whole line of this. I'm gonna show you the PDF. So they start with this recorder, and then the idea is for the student to develop until he gets to real instruments like a clarinet or a flute or anything like that. They're made out of plastic, very durable. They also have woodwind instruments. I'm going to show you what I mean by that. They don't have real instruments, but they have plastic woodwind instruments. Okay. And then they go from up to 15, the recorder. This one is 15, up to 129, which is I think it's a French horn. It's 129. So I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this very well. Maybe it's too small. But then you start here with the recorder, right? Once you learn how to play the recorder, you go with the toot and the doot. So this is, you play like a flute, but it has the fingering of a recorder. Okay, just the same fingering as the recorder has, just like you play like a flute sideways, right? But it's the same fingering as a recorder. The same with the dude. It's a clarinet, right? You play it like clarinet, but it has the same fingering as the recorder. And then after that, the student is supposed to go to the flute. It's plastic. It also, I think it also have the silicone rubber seals to help them play. You have the flute, the J sax, it's like a saxophone, the clarinet, and the horn. And after the students learn to play with these plastic instruments with the adaptations, right, with the help, then they're supposed to go to play the real instruments. Now, the way this is developed, I don't think they developed this with special eds in mind. I think they thought of this having in mind, like starting really early in elementary, teaching the students to play recorder and play wind instrument, and then gradually in elementary start playing with the other ones, with this and this, and then when they get to be old enough to play this one, they can go ahead and play this one. But I mean, if you have a student that is having trouble playing the recorder with this, these rubber seals are a big help for them. Okay, they're gonna help them seal the holes better. This one back here, the one which sometimes is a little bit harder to cover completely, right? And also back here it's adjustable. Right, this is where they hold the recorder, helps them. Let me see there. Okay. So this one again, if your students, one of your students needs a little bit of help with fingering and all that, this one is gonna maybe is gonna help them. All right, and this one, I found this one the other day, just looking around. That's the link. It's $25, and it helps students with the notes, with the fingering down here. This doesn't have one, but the real recorders that have the fingerings down there, that helps them play with cover those holes at the end of the recorder. That one is only $25. So if you have a student that have trouble playing these notes back down here, this one will be helpful. Now, paddle bass. I don't know if you have seen this one. This is one of the coolest ones I have here. So it comes with a carrying case. So this one is 200. Is what developed by, his name is Kalani Das. He's a music therapist. And it's a bass with only one string. Talking about adaptations, instead of 4 strings, it only has 1 string. You can change the frets. This is magnetic, I'm going to show you. You can change the fret, and the frets are color coded. All the notes on the fret are color coded. And the frets are, you can change the frets, but they are in scales. One fret would be E, F, and the other one is G. And the color sequence they use is the boomwalkers. The color sequence of the boomwalkers. Okay? And there's a couple of different ways you can play this. It has the for the strap. You can hook up the guitar strap or bass strap, right? Here's the other one. And you can play it like a real bass or guitar. You can play it laying down like this on a table. And then the student can here and with the other hand play here. Or you can have even two students. Or one playing the note and the other one playing the string, right? You can have two students playing the instrument, or you can play with your student, right? Maybe you can press the note and the student plays the string, or vice versa, okay? One thing is that you're gonna need an amplifier, an instrument amplifier. You could connect it here with a regular a quarter-inch music instrument cable for piano or guitar or bass. It's the same one. And what else? Let me show you so that's the bass. So you can see it completely. I would say this is like 3 feet, maybe 2.5 feet. Okay. Then you can take off the fret, which is magnetic. There you go. Okay, you can change it. It has 2 more frets with colors for the other scales. There they are. This one I haven't been able to use it with my students because I bought it last year just before COVID. And I was starting to make a band with my students. I already had the drummer, the piano. I had someone playing the strings on the iPad. Another one was playing guitar on the iPad. I have my singer. And I have a student play bass on the iPad, and he was doing so well that I was going to give him the paddle, the bass to play it. But then, like 2 weeks later, COVID hit, everything closed, and I didn't get the chance to play with my students. But I mean, it has all the adaptations, a lot of adaptations here. Only one string. It's color coded. The string is wider than a regular bass string. It's rubber. It's rubber. It's not a metal like a real bass string. It's rubber. And it's made of plastic. It's very durable. It's very sturdy, very durable. So that's one option you have there. Okay. All right. So I have a lot more slides to show you. I'm gonna continue. Let me check what time is it. It's 2. Okay, so I think I'm gonna do maybe like half an hour more, 34 minutes, 40 more minutes, and then we're gonna take a break, and then we're gonna go to our second presentation. To my second presentation, okay? So, makey. This one is very fun. And it's not that hard to use and set up. So this one, there you go. It's only $50, $50. Super cheap. For all the things you can do with it. So it's a board. It comes like this. It's a little bit rough, but it's very well made. It was developed in MIT by students at MIT. It works with Windows, with Mac. You can program it any way you want if you want to program it. If you don't know, doesn't matter. You don't have to program it. It works either way. It works very good. And you can hook it up with Garageband or any DAW like Logic or any digital instrument you have in your computer. It doesn't work with iPad, doesn't work with iPhone. Okay, it just works with computers. And also, I wrote a blog about how I use this in my class. You can check it out. Here's the link. You're going to have it in your presentation. I'm also giving you all the links for all the websites up here. This is the link to the website of all the products I'm showing you here. So you hook it up with cables, okay? May look a little bit intimidating, but don't worry, this is easy. It's not that hard. So it comes with these cables, right? Alligator cables. And the bottom part here is just a ground. You're gonna connect there the white cable, or any cable. I mean, you can connect any cable, but I use the white one, right? And then the other cables, you're gonna connect them to these holes here, right? So as you can see, this is a cross because this is up, down, right, and left from your computer keyboard. And then the other two are space, the space bar, and a mouse click. So basically what you're doing is you're replacing your computer keyboard and your mouse with this, okay? So you connect the cables to the board, connect the ground. This is the front, this is the back. Right, this is the back, this is the front. And here on this side, this is a zoom of this part over here. So if you see here on this part, there are letters. So those letters are computer keys. W, A, S, D, F, G. Now, if you go to your computer and you find those keys, they are in a row. It's like W, right? But you have A, S, D, F, G. And on the other side, you have the mouse. On the other side of the board, you have the keys, the buttons for the mouse. And this one up here, this is like if you want to program the Makey, if you can write code and all that, you can program and do more customizable things with that, but don't worry, you don't have to deal with that. So you have letters here, right? Then you connect these cables over here to the alligators, and then you connect that to anything you want. It could be anything that conducts electricity. So that's how it works. It uses a very, very low current. You don't feel anything. Just a very, very low current. And once you complete the circuit, it triggers either a key on the keyboard, on your computer keyboard, or a mouse, or the space bar, or the up and down, right, left arrows on your keyboard. And that is gonna trigger whatever you have on your computer. It could be a piano, it could be a Garageband, it could be loops, whatever you want to trigger with that on your computer. So you can use fruits. I use bananas with my students to play piano. You can use Play-Doh. I let my students do any kind of shape with the Play-Doh. And then they came with their shapes, plug them into the cables, and they play music with that. You can use water. You can use metal, anything made from metal. This here, it's yellow, right? And very cool, you can draw on a paper with a pencil, because pencil, it's carbon, it conducts electricity. So you can draw anything you want on a paper, connect that to the cables, connect to the computer, and you play music with your drawing, which I also did with my students. I let them draw anything they want, different shapes around the paper. The only thing you have to do, you have to connect that to the edge of the paper. With the drawing, needs to be connected to the edge of the paper, so you can connect the cable over there. So this is my classroom. This is one of my students. You only see his hands, but this is one of my students playing piano with bananas. Okay. I'm going to talk to you also about that software you see there for the piano on the big screen. I'm going to talk to you about that also. So as you can see, he's holding here on the Zoom, he's holding a cable. This cable comes over here, right? And then all the other cables from the 3 bananas go in here to this little box I made to put the board in there. And he holds the cable. Once he touches the banana, he completes the circuit, and that triggers the node on the computer on the software. All right. So now I'm going to show you the next slides. I'm going to show you is Synthesia, how I use Synthesia, and then I'm going to show you how I use Makey with Synthesia. How can you combine both? So Synthesia, it's $29 on their website. is for computer, for desktop, PC, Mac, Windows, iPad. The notes are color-coded. I use a lot of color code with my students. That's mostly how they read music, with matching colors. Um, you can do your own MIDI files and your own MIDI songs, import them into the Synthesia, and play with your students. And if you remember that game Guitar Hero, right? If you ever play Guitar Hero, you saw that game. There were squares coming down from the top, and then match them on the bottom, playing the guitar or the drums. This is the same concept, except that it is with a piano. And there's a lot of customizations you can do with that. It has a metronome. You can customize the size of the piano, the size of the keys. You can customize the size of the blocks that comes falling down, the tempo. You can play faster or slower. You can also they can read the notation. You can also put the notation on the program. You can read it. There's a zoom of the program. You can also play it right there on this. If you have an iPad, you can also play right there on the screen. You can play the keys right there on the iPad screen. And there's a notation, and that it has this column here, column that goes node by node, and you can either set it up so it starts playing and the student has to follow it, or it just stops there until the students play the note. Once the student play the correct note, then the column goes to the next one and the next one, and so on. So this is how I use it in my classroom. I have that small MIDI controller, color-coded again. And with that piano, I use it. The reason I bought that piano is because you have the keys and you have the pads. So if the student cannot play the keys because they're either too small or they have trouble with the fine motor, right? They can use the pads, or they can play the piano pressing the pads. I added all the colors. It doesn't come with the colors. I added the colors. Very good advice. The best way to color code things is with contact paper. Go to Amazon, find contact paper of those colors is the best one. When you peel it off, it doesn't leave any glue residue. It's easy to peel off. You can write on it. It's the best one I have found. Contact paper, color contact paper. Okay, now I'm going to show you a video about this one. Oh, I forgot. Okay, so I'm going to show you two videos. Okay, first one is going to be the Makey Makey. I'm going to show you a video of the Makey Makey, and the second one is going to be Synthesia. Okay, I'm going to show you two videos. So in this video of Makey Makey, I found some copper tape lying around in the school, and I took the copper tape. I stole a couple of the round rubber color things that gym teachers have to tell the students where to run and where to stand or where to sit. I stole 3 of those, color coded, and then I hook everything to the Makey Makey. All right. Students can play very easily. All they have to do is large motor, gross motor movements. All they have to do is place the hand on top of one of those rubber things with the copper tape, and then hold the cable with the other hand. If the student cannot hold the cable, this is what I would do. I would hold the cable with one hand and then touch the arm of the student so I can complete the circuit, right? I would touch the hand of the arm of the student, and the student would play put the hands on the colors, right, and play. And the other video, Synthesia, I'm going to show it in action. Let me move this out of the way. Okay. So that's on an iPad. That's the same MIDI controller, but now it's hooked up to an iPad, which also you can hook it up to an iPad. Right, and that's Synthesia. That's how you play it. Now, the app, I wanna let you know something. The app only comes with the colors like this. Okay, you can only set up right or left hand. Wait, I lost. Okay, so you can only set up right or left hand colors with that. Okay, but the way I did it, and this is what it was more like a hack on my part. Um, I'm not going to be able to explain to you because it's a long process and tedious one, but I found out a way that you can make each MIDI track a note and then assign a color to each track, to each note, okay? But you can use it like this, for right hand and left hand. Okay, and next, okay, now I have the window again. Okay, very good. Okay, so okay, now we're gonna combine both the Makey Makey and the Synthesia. So on Synthesia, you can play. You don't have a piano. You don't need a piano. You can play it with your computer, with the keys on your computer, A, S, D, F, G, F, right? And then you would play the piano. I use a program with the keys on your computer, playing the letters, right? Now, the Makey Makey, you can trigger notes, right? With the Makey Makey, you can trigger notes with, again, letters from the keyboard. So what if I combine both, like you saw, and then I can trigger, and this is how it works. You're going to trigger with the Makey Makey, you're going to trigger a letter from your keyboard, from your computer keyboard. That is going to trigger a note, the Synthesia, and it's going to produce the sound. And that's how I did what you just saw. Instead of using a piano, you use anything that conducts electricity. And that's how you copy the Makey Makey to the Synthesia, right? So, okay, I already showed you the video. So, what if, and then I thought, okay, so if it's anything that conducts electricity and human beings conduct electricity, what if I do a human piano, right? Instead of touching bananas or drawings or whatever, they have to high-five someone to play a note. So what I did is, those are again the cables that go to the Makey Makey, these ones here. And then I found out, lying around, some copper cables, and I did some extensions. This is basically what it is. It's just an extension for this cable. Now I run those cables through here, and here comes the first cable for the first node. Then the second cable comes over here for the second node, and then the third cable comes over here for the third node. And as you can see, they're all color-coded C, D, E. And then this tube that comes over here, it's your white cable, the ground, where you complete the circuit. So I use these noodle pools. It's the one used in the pools, just so they wouldn't trip with the cable, because the cable is very thin. So I use this just let them know, don't trip over here. There's a cable, right? So I will have 1, 2, 3 students standing here, each one of them holding the cable with one hand, right? Holding the cable with one hand, and with the other, they will be like this, waiting for a high five. The other student, the fourth student, will be here, walking around here, up and down, holding this cable in one hand, and with the other hand, he would go to each student and high five them, right? And that way, he would play the notes, right? At least 3 notes for now, 3 notes. Again, you can also trigger, I also ended up triggering loops. So they would trigger sound loops, high-fiving the students, right? And that's a zoom of the loop. And then at the end of the cable, I would do also that little loop. Why? Because it's easier for them to hold it, or if the student can't hold it, I would use it as a ring and put it on one of the fingers of the student, right? So he doesn't have to hold it. He just would go in just like a ring. And these are my students. Obviously, I cover the faces, right? So I have 2 students here and 2 teachers. And they loved it that much that they wanted to try with the students, and we end up integrating everyone, students, staff, teacher, everyone. That's how they did it. You see that they hold in the one hand, with the other hand, they're waiting for the high five. The other student is here, holding the cable with one hand, and the other hand, high fiving everyone. That way, when he touches, when he high fives, this student here is completing the circuit on the makey and triggering the notes over there on the computer. So that may be a little bit too much for you, right? But you don't have to go all the way here. You can go and use it just with the, like this. All you have to do is hook it up to the computer, connect to the computer. You can use fruits, you can use Play-Doh, you can use drawing, you can use anything that conducts electricity, anything. And then just use it like that with your students. Okay? All the other things I show you is how I developed and took that idea further and further. If you want to try like that, go ahead. I mean, the possibilities, I think, are endless. There's so many things that you can do with that, so many adaptations that you can do with that, that it's a lot of things that you can do with that. I haven't had the time to play a lot because, again, of COVID. I did this activity way before COVID. That's why no one is afraid of touching anyone else. We didn't knew about COVID, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. So, okay, so I'm going to talk to you about a couple more things. My presentation is it's longer than this, but we're not going to have time to. I'm not going to have time to show you everything. You're going to have the presentation. You can look up the other things on the presentation. I'm going to just show them to you very quickly. But if you want, you can then go through the presentation and read about all this slower. Also, you're going to have the video, so you're going to be able to listen again to all the explanations and all I'm telling you. So I'm going to just go real quickly through Garageband. It's free. What else do you want, right? It's free. You can play almost any instrument on it, right? Comes for iPad, iPhone, for the Mac. This one, it only comes for Apple, okay? Windows, PC, you're not gonna find it there. This one is only for Apple products. You're gonna use it, I mean, you're gonna use it on your computer, on your Apple computer or your iPad, but if you want it to sound louder, you're gonna have to use an amplifier or a Bluetooth speaker. Now, if you use a Bluetooth speaker, you're gonna have a lag, you're gonna have a delay on the sound, okay? Just so you can have it in mind. And also, you can use it to compose songs with loops. It comes with thousands of loops, different genres, different music, okay? So you can use it either to play instruments, digital instruments, or you can use it to compose songs with loops. And also you can record it. The digital instruments, like, let me show you here. This is the guitar, right? So the digital instrument you see there, you can use it, you can record songs with that also. Okay, so I'm gonna try to share my iPad screen and give you a little short demo of that. You can play guitar, you can play bass, you can play piano, you can play strings, sound very good, drums, right? You can either program the drums like that in a grid, One way that I use the drums is like this, matching patterns. So I would give them a page, for example, with this, and they have to create that pattern here. All right? And then I would have different styles, rock, pop, funk, right? Okay, so let me see if I can make this work. So I'm gonna share my iPad. Let me know. Okay, I'm gonna share my iPad with you. Just let me know if you can listen to the sound. I think you're gonna be able to, but I know that you're gonna see the picture, but I'm not sure about the sound. I think. Can you hear the sound? Okay, very good. So you're gonna see a little bit of delay because of, right, I'm sharing and we're on the sharing of the internet, but okay, the guitar, let me see if I can show you on the screen over here. You just strum your finger down. And if you strum up, it sounds like, whoop, it sounds like you're playing the guitar, like the real sound you would get when you strum the strings up. If you strum down, you're gonna hear the same sound you would hear when you strum the strings like this, okay? And also you can just touch up here, and that's gonna play the chord. Okay? Very easy to play. Now, bass is the same. You play the bass of the same way. Piano. So you see those little squares, right? The squares it have. You're gonna see on your screen, but each square is a different version of the chord. Then at the bottom you have the bass of the piano, right? With your left hand. 1, 5, 1. All right. Drums. All right, this is the pattern. Let's do this one. Then some hi-hat. All right, so they can do it, they can use it like that, or they can, they can play the drum. Right? And this is how I did, I'm going to show you the strings. This is the last one. And that's how I had one student playing the guitar, one student playing the bass on the band. So you can do, oh, this is really cool. Let me show you here. So with the strings, your finger is the bow. So if you go slow, it's gonna be piano, but if you go fast, it's forte. And again, I think and then you can select the instrument you want. You can do bass, you can do bass and viola, you can do violin. And if you select them all, it's the complete harmony. All right? So as you can see, it's very adaptable, very easy to play. And again, I don't think they had in mind when Apple did the GarageBand, I don't think they had in mind like special ed. I think they just wanted people to be able to access music effortless and easily. And so anyone could use their GarageBand, their app, and just open the app, press record, and start recording music with it, right? But again, that works. With my students, that works. All right, so to finish this presentation, I'm just going to show you some things here very quickly. I'm not going to talk a lot about them. I found this in my school, the Dash Robot. It's a little bit expensive, but if your school, again, have the STEM program, and they have one of these lying around, all you have to do is buy the xylophone, and this guy is going to play any melody, any song for you. You compose that, you compose the melody on your on the application on the iPad, and he's going to play for you. And then during the pandemic last year, they had a 3D printer. So I ended up printing notes and stencils. I did it in Tinkercad. It's free. This involves a little bit more of, let me start sharing this. Wait, I'm doing this wrong. Okay, there you go. Sorry. There you go. That's the Dutch robot. Okay, so you play anything here. That guy is gonna play anything for you on the xylophone. And then the 3D printer. You go to Tinkercad. You do your model there. Transfer into the 3D printer, and I ended up doing templates for my students to write notes, write rhythms. And also I did some manipulatives, right? So they would compose rhythms. There you go. All right? And you can hook up a magnet to the back of it and use it on your whiteboard or your magnetic whiteboard, okay? And also these ones are very good for visually impaired students. They can feel the note, right? They can feel the note and know what note is it. This is the rest. These are some of the templates. And those are a lot of the templates I did. Then Crow Music Lab. I feel like every music teacher knows how to use this one. This was one of the most used activities during the pandemic for all students, right? But if you go to these other websites, in case you didn't know, this is from Google also, but these are experiments. And this one you see here, the keyboard, you control and you play the notes with your head. The computer reads your head and you move your head and you play the notes with your head. You're going to do it with your hand, with your legs, with your arm, I think, right? And also this one over here, you control with your body. The computer with the camera, with your body, move your body, you make music. So if you want to check those out later, you're going to have the presentation. You're going to be able to go there and check it out, okay? Again, the Able Snapshot, the blog, you can go there, and there's a lot of technology things there. I have 2 blogs there, 3. I have 3. There's one with the ukulele, and the first one, the ukulele with Skook, very good. So check that out, and that's it. That's music technology. So let's take I feel like we need a good break. Let's take.
I would suggest no more than 3 minutes just to stretch. And then
Okay, very good. So let's do 3 minutes. Yeah, 3 minutes. Let's come back at 2:34, maybe around 2:37, 2:38. we go with the next presentation. Okay?
I think we should probably go. Oh, perfect timing.
Okay.
So now we're for presentation number 2 about working with students with high support needs.
Okay. By the way, thank you for the comments on the chat. I'm reading them. Cricot and the Ayumi, right? I'm gonna definitely I'm gonna look them up. Never heard of them before, but I'm gonna look them up. Thank you for that. Okay, so all right. So working. So next presentation is gonna be working with students with severe disabilities. Okay, can skip that. So I'm gonna talk to you today about first I'm gonna show you some teacher and student characteristics. Teacher characteristics that I think are important when you're working with severe students with disability, in my case, is severe students with disabilities that have autism, okay? That's basically the area where I have concentrated myself in autism. Although I have taught students with other disabilities, the majority of them are with autism, have autism. And a little bit about classroom management. I think that's very important, how you organize and manage your classroom. That influences a lot of the behavior of the students. I'm going to talk a little bit about ABA. I'm going to try not to go too far down the rabbit hole. But a lot of what I do in my school, at least my last two schools I worked, it's ABA, it's behavior. I deal with a lot of behavior. Primarily because my students are nonverbal, so the way they communicate is with behaviors, right? And you need to understand them and know why, the why of the behavior, so you know what's happening with your student. If he's trying to communicate something to you, if he wants something, right? And then I'm going to show you techniques from ABA that I use with my students. And then at the end, I'm going to give you some general advice and key concepts that you might want to have in mind when you're teaching students with severe disabilities, especially with students with autism. Okay, so some characteristics. Most of what I show you and talk to you about is my personal experience. And a lot of things I have read a lot of things in books that match my experience. I also read some others that doesn't match my experience. But all I'm going to tell you today about this presentation is based on my experience with my students. Now, you again, like I told you with the music note, you may have to adapt these things for your students, adapt these things for your teaching style, and or change them, or maybe they don't apply, right? So it's going to be up to you to decide what can I use from here, what I can't not use, or what I have to change or adapt from here. Because I don't know your students, I don't know your teaching style, so the most I can do is give you my experience, my example, and then from there you can start. Which is more than I had when I started. When I started, I didn't have anyone to help me with this. I have to figure all this by myself, basically. So, first of all, it takes several classes to teach a concept or skill, and I mean several. It's not that 1, 2, 3. No, I've been working with classrooms with students for a month in one skill, only one skill, right? For a month. So it may take several classes. You have to be very empathetic, right? And one thing that helped me a lot is putting myself in their shoes. Literally, sit down on their seats. Imagine your class. You seeing yourself in your class and try that. That's going to help you a lot. See a lot of things. Some days are going to be better than others. Very extreme way, right? Everything about working with special education with severe students is on steroids. Everything, teaching, the class, behaviors, everything. It's bigger in terms of on steroids, right? Special education is going to take a lot from you, as much as you can offer. So my philosophy is that I'm a teacher. I love what I do, but I also need time for myself. If I don't do that, I'm gonna crack, because I like to do it, but it's hard. It takes a lot of mental, emotional from you. So have that in mind. And if your students are nonverbal, low mobility, right, you're gonna have to be ever more extrovert, more dynamic, give more energy to the class. Lessons are not going to go the way you think. You're going to do your lesson plan. It's going to be beautiful and perfect. When you start your class, everything, you're going to realize that it doesn't work. You have to do something else completely, because a lot of things, I'm going to tell you about that. So you have to be ready to improvise, to adapt on the moment. I always have a plan B or C for my class. It could be a reinforcement or of any kind, right? We just have another plan B or C in case your main lesson plan doesn't work. And you're going to have a lot of bad classes. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad teacher. It just means that it was a bad class. That's it. It doesn't mean that your students are not good or bad or whatever. It doesn't mean that you're not good or bad. It's just that that's the way it is, right? Again, but in a very on steroids. So one thing that I learned is fail. And I found this on the internet. I don't remember where. First, attempts in learning. I learned a lot by just trying them and failing, and take a step back, meditate, analyze, and think what happened and what went wrong or not. Change and try again, and keep trying, okay, until you find a way. You're going to find a way that is going to work with your students, but it takes time. So I'm going to talk to you about my students, the characteristics of my students, general characteristics of my students. So my students have challenges, and they could be cognitive challenges, physical challenges, in terms of fine or gross motor skills, motor planning, coordination, emotional, behavioral challenge, medical challenge, and sensory challenges. Some of the behaviors or characteristics of my students are: they could display aversive, inappropriate, or aggressive behaviors. Right, fine and gross motor skills challenges, mobility challenges, over or under stimulation, sensory, right? Sometimes they have trouble controlling or expressing their emotions. Their attention span and concentration for extended periods of time. Sorry about the age there at the end. They have trouble with that, right? It's a challenge for them to maintain attention span for long periods. They have difficulties with auto-control, controlling themselves, controlling their impulses, controlling their emotions also. They have developmental delays. Most of my students right now are nonverbal. They suffer from anxiety. I have students that are they're very anxious all the time. Some of them could be oppositional or non-compliance. Wide range of ages and wide range on the spectrum. My school, we have from low support students to high support students from all the ages. So it's very wide, the level and age of my students. And also, they at least my students are used to small works with break, small breaks, work and break. Now, this is some of the variables that I have found that affect the participation of my students in my classes. And I have this here so you can also understand that if something went wrong in your class with one of your students, it doesn't mean necessarily that it's your fault. It could be that the student is having one of these issues that do not have to do with you or your class. Okay? It's just the way life is. For example, that day they didn't took their medication. Guess what? You're gonna have a very fun class that day if you don't have the medication. They didn't sleep well last night. A lot of, not almost, but I have some students that have trouble sleeping, and in my class they're just, knocked out. They just had a bad experience before coming to your class. They have a really bad experience, and they're angry. They're mad. They're in a bad place, right? They have problem with communication. They can't communicate what he or she wants, right? And that may develop into behaviors. Lack of motivation, right? Why do I have to do this? I mean, why do I have to play the drums? Why do I have to sing the song? Give me a reason to do it. Give me a motivation. Or it could be sensory issues in the classroom. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. They don't feel well. I mean, my students, they don't demonstrate when they feel distress, right? They feel pain. So sometimes it's difficult to know if they don't feel good, and they have problems with communications. It could be difficult to really know if they have a headache or they don't feel well. So maybe they don't feel well. They can't communicate it very well, and that's why they have some behaviors. They have a change in the routine, the weather. The weather also changed behaviors. Day of the week, Tuesday. That's okay. I laugh because we have we have saw that Tuesdays is the day our school have a lot of behaviors. Not Monday. You would think that okay, Monday because they're coming back from the weekend. No, it's Tuesday. Tuesdays are the day where behaviors spike on our school. So maybe it's a day of the week. I mean, also if we have a half day on the school, that also changes their routine, and we also tend to see more behaviors. Coming back from a vacation, maybe there's some undesirable person or student present, someone they don't like, or they don't want to work or participate. A lot of older students are given they're asked if they want to participate or not because they're working with self-determination. So they may say, no, I don't want to work, and you have to respect that. So a little bit about classroom management. In ABA, when you work with, in ABA, I think they call it client, but or student, right? But when you work with them in a room, you have to sanitize the environment. That basically is remove all stimuli from the environment, remove everything that is gonna seek their attention. So you are the most interesting thing in the room. So my classroom, the way I organize it is a big open space. I keep clean or organized, safe and secure, minimal decoration, no instruments visible or accessible, because they may want to play the drum or the piano, and if it's accessible, they're just gonna stand up and go to the piano and play it. But if they don't see the piano, if the piano is not available, you're gonna avoid that behavior. And also no computer or iPads. Those are the reinforcements of my students, computers and iPads. And some of them can't control themselves when they see a computer or an iPad. They just want to use it. They see it, I want to use it, period. I close my windows and doors, less distractions from outside. Rooms, avoid noisy or reverberated rooms. I had a room once, music room, that had a lot of reverb, and one of my students didn't want to take the class, didn't want to come in. I didn't know it, that it was the reverb in the room. I figured it out later when I gave him a music class in his classroom, and he did everything right. But when he went to my classroom, he didn't want to work or do anything because of the reverb. And again, all this work help with sensory overload and help focus the student. And you want to be the focal point of attention of the classroom. You want to be the most important and fun thing in your classroom. This is just an example of my routine. I know everyone has their own routine. This is mine. I stretch, I dance, then my music activity, and at the end I give them a break or sensory time. I put some relaxing music. If I can, I turn off the lights. I just give them a break. If they wanna play an instrument, this is the time I gave them to play the instrument at the end of the class. And this is one of my classrooms. These are the photos of one of my classrooms. So as you can see, a lot of open spaces, not a lot of decoration, no instruments visible, only the drums and the piano, because I really didn't have a place to put them. And sometimes I would put a cloth or a bed sheet or something over them so they can't access them, or at least they can't see them. And the colors on the floor, that's where they sit. Those are their spots. They would pick where they want to sit. All my other instruments were in that brown cabinet here on the wall, everything out of reach. Okay? Now, I'm going to talk about ABA, and I'm going to try not to go down the rabbit hole too far down. This part may be a little bit dense for some of you who doesn't know about ABA, but a lot of the things all the things I'm going to talk about here are things that I do and use in my classroom. And not only me, the gym teacher, the art teacher, all the teachers in my school. So ABA stands for Applied Behavior Analysis. So what does that mean? Well, the psychological scientific explanation, the application of behavior laws to change socially significant behavior to a meaningful degree. Right, that means that you're basically using the behavior laws to change a behavior. You want to change a behavior to a significant, meaningful degree. So the way ABA analyzes behaviors is with ABC. So every behavior has an antecedent, behavior, and a consequence. Basically, antecedent is what happens before the behavior. Behavior, well, it's the behavior itself, it's the action. And it needs to be observable and quantifiable, observable. The behavior needs to be observable, okay? An emotion is not a behavior. Oh, he was mad. What happened? Oh, he was mad. No, that's not a behavior. Oh, he threw the shaker across the room. That's a behavior. That's something you can observe and quantify. And then the consequence, what happens after the behavior. And it could be a reinforcement, it could be something that reinforces the behavior, or it could be something that punishes the behavior. Now, punishment is not go to a room, you don't have candies, or go to the corner, you have a timeout. It could be that, but here I'm not talking about that. I'm talking punishment in terms of reducing the behavior. Reinforcement encourages the behavior. Punishment decreases the behavior. Okay? So antecedent is whatever happens before. Could be a person, setting, time, day, activity, anything. Behavior is the action. And consequence is what happened right after the behavior. So the behaviors, in order to understand a behavior, you need to know the functions, right? So the function of a behavior is to escape. We have two kinds of behavior, right? Functions. Socially mediated, which is a person needs to deliver the reinforcement, or not socially mediated, in case the person, you don't need a person to deliver the reinforcement. The socially mediated, the ones that you need a person to deliver the reinforcement, there are three types. And I know you have seen this with your students, either they are typical or special ed students. Escape a behavior or situation to gain attention, or they just want something, tangible or an activity, okay? The not socially mediated, the ones you don't need a person, the reinforcement itself, the behavior reinforces itself. And I'm going to give you examples of all of this. So my students, the reinforcements of my students, mostly, because each student has different reinforcements, have different motivations to do something. Could be edibles, could be candy, gummy, chips, cookies. Could be the iPad, access to the iPad, right? Access to the tangible, access to the iPad or a computer. Mostly what they do is watch YouTube videos. That's what they like to do. Or access to a person. If you do all the work, you can go to the next classroom and say hi to John, or you can go there and play with him. Or just praise, right? Good job, well done, there you go. So those are some of the reinforcement, because it could be anything. A reinforcement could be anything that the student desires or wants. So this, I'm gonna give this to you. This is 100 ways to say good job and very good. I don't know if you have seen this one before or not, but I know that sometimes we tend to say good job, good work, good job, very good job, very good, 1,000 times a day, and sometimes it loses it meaning, right? So if you keep changing, right, good work, that's it, super, right? It motivates the students maybe a little bit more, because I mean, if you listen to good job all day long, you're gonna get tired. So some advices about reinforcements. I said it's going to be different for each student. Edibles they are not, but they tend to be the strongest ones. Why? Because they're tangible, they're concrete. If you're working with students with autism, they are concrete and they're immediate. Okay? You can give them right there after the behavior. And they're tangible, they can see it, you can show it to them. Must be immediate after the behavior. If you give some students a reinforcement, 2 hours later, he's not going to know that you gave him that reinforcement for this activity. Okay, it has to be right away. And if you should always be the person who gives the reinforcement to the student, so the student can pair with you. You are the access person, right? For example, in my classroom, at the end of my class, in the sensory time, I had one student that liked to play the piano. And he would, at the beginning, he would go into my classroom, go straight to the piano, sit down, and start playing 3 notes. A rhythm with 3 notes. Da, 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 with both hands. Da, da, and he would do that countless times. Now, what I did was, okay, you're going to have access to the piano, but only after you do all the class. If you work through the class, at the end of the class, I'm going to let you play the piano for 5 minutes. And you can play anything you want as long as you want, but 5 minutes. And at first, it was difficult. I mean, he got into a classroom, and the first thing he wanted to do was go to the piano and play that. But with time, he learned, he understood, and he changed. And he would do everything in my class. And by the end of the class, he knew that it was his time to play the piano. And as when I say, so music class is, no, wait, when I said, okay, so we're done with the activity, now we're going to our sensory time, so now it's your break, then he would stand up and go to the piano, because he understood very well that that was his reinforcement for paying attention and working. But I needed to be the one who gave that instruction, they gave that reinforcement to him, okay? Because I'm the teacher, I want him to pay attention to me and work with me. If someone else gave him the reinforcement, I lose that. Okay, there you go. That's the example I just gave you with the piano class. Or also provide access to an object or instrument. Like at the end of the class, you can get your iPad and look. You can see videos, or you can listen to music, or you can play any instrument you want. That's one way. That's one way I use reinforcements. Okay, so techniques for the music class. Some of the techniques I use: task analysis. So basically, all these, right, very technical names, task analysis, reinforcers, right? We all do all these things already. We have been doing them as teachers and musicians for a very long, long time. Okay? It's just that, again, when you're working with students with disabilities, you use these things on steroids, right? You have to go even more deeper into them, more detail, more steps. But you already know how you already know the basics of it. So task analysis basically is break down a skill or task into successive small steps, right? And then you work backward from the objective and you deconstruct it in small steps. For example, I don't have that with me right now. Okay, but for example, I'm gonna give you, I always give the example of the desk handbell, right? Let's assume that this is my handbell, the recorder, okay? So in order for the student to grab a handbell, this is the task analysis. These are the steps he needs to go through. So he needs to extend the hand, right? Turn the hand around like this. Grab the handle of the desk, of the handbell. Turn it around. Play the handbell. And do it. And grab the next one, right? So that's a task analysis of the steps for a student to grab a handbell and play it, and then pick the next one, okay? And you can do this with everything. I mean, you can do this with, if a student is playing the trumpet, for example, what are the steps you need to play the trumpet? When you come to the rehearsal, well, you, first of all, get the case, open the case, take out the trumpet, take out the mouthpiece, put the mouthpiece in the trumpet, close the case, put the case beside you on the floor, clean the trumpet, oil the bulbs, right? That's a task analysis. And you can do that with everything. Once you have done that, then you can teach that skill to your student step by step by step by step. And you can also use it as a schedule, right? As a sequence of things they need to do in order to achieve that objective or skill. So some ways you can do a task analysis. Observe another person, do the task or skill, right? And take notes. Ask another person the steps, or do it yourself. That's the one I use the most, basically. I do it myself and just analyze myself. What I'm doing here. What do I need? Oh, okay. All these steps. Okay. Once you know that, you can you can teach it better because you know exactly all the steps that he needs to go through. So this is an example. I don't think this is an example about clapping, right? I'm doing right now with my students. I'm working clapping rhythms. So I did this one for clapping. And all the things they have to do when they're clapping. For example, listen to the song. Something that for them could be already difficult to do. Just pay attention to the song. Focus on the song. Figure out what is the beat and the pulse of the song, right? A very, very abstract concept for them. I feel like the beat, the pulse is it's very challenging for them to understand what it is because it's very abstract. Although they can feel it, they can clap it, they can move, they can point to it on paper, right? But it's still, for some, it's difficult to understand the concept because it's very abstract and they have challenges understanding abstract concepts. So this is now this is the task analysis for clapping. I'm not going to go through it, but you can read it later. You're going to have the presentation, right? But even for clapping, you see there five steps to clap. Something that, right, everyone does without thinking twice, but for my students, it's very challenging because they have to think a lot of movements, right? And coordinate and plan ahead a lot of movements, right? It's not only clapping. They can clap. I know they can clap, but it's clapping on time, on the beat. And they have to plan their movement so when they're clapping here, it coordinates with the beat on the song or the beat of or whatever beat we're doing. So that planning, that coordination, that gross motor skills listening. It's a lot of skills that go into it. Okay, so I'm going to talk about adaptations now. And the way I'm going to talk about adaptations is like this. I search around for adaptations, accommodations, modifications, and I found out that sometimes people refer to them in different ways. The way I'm going to talk to you about them is like this. You have adaptations, and adaptations is the umbrella, is the overall of accommodations and modifications. So that means that the accommodations and modifications both go under adaptations. Okay, so when I say adaptations, I'm referring to both at the same time. Accommodations, modifications. So accommodations is the how, right? How you teach something. And modifications is the what you're teaching. Accommodation is the how, modification is the what. So accommodations, again, like I said, is the how student learns. Is you use accommodations when the student can learn at the same level as his peers. He just only needs support. He needs prompts. He needs a little bit of help to achieve the same objective as his peers. Okay. Modifications is when you change what the student learns. You use different objective, a different goal, a different curriculum. My whole curriculum is a complete modification. Although I do use the music standards, I don't follow the music standards the way the Massachusetts that you would see it in like a kindergarten, first grade, second grade. I don't follow them like that. My whole curriculum is modified for my students, specifically for them. I do work music skills with them, but that depends of the level of my students. Okay, and then I modify my whole curriculum to fit that. And when I work with my individual students, then I use my accommodations, which could be all the instruments I just showed you, right? Now, Alex Hamill talks about these 4 adaptations. Modality, which is oral, visual, kinesthetic, pacing. You're going too slow or too fast in your class? Are you talking too fast? Are you talking too slow? Are you doing too many activities in your class? Size of text, in our case, notes, or the size of the staff. I'm going to give you examples. Color-coded notes, color text, and or use highlighters. Those are some examples. Now, this is one example of an accommodation I use with my students, and this one I can use it with any instrument, at least the ones I use with my students. It could be the piano, could be the bells, could be the xylophones, right? So the way I develop this is visually. You have the colors, which tell you the notes you're going to play, and then you have the squares and the rectangles, which show you the length of the rhythm. And then you can use this. I use this with or without the rhythmic notes. Okay, with some students I add the rhythmic notes. With others I don't use the rhythmic notes. It's just the colors and the shapes. All right, and then I use prompts, which I'm going to talk about later. I use prompts with them so they can read the music. And I help them read the music until they can read it on their own. So we're looking here at size, shapes, color, If you look at it, you also see that there isn't a lot of things going on there. It's very clean, organized, structure. Only has the name of the song, and that's it. This is another one I use. Colors, different colors for the notes. The staff is very big. You only have one measure per staff. So it's easier to read, easier to understand. All the notes are perfectly aligned on their beats. And again, not a lot of information. The number one you see on the corner, right corner, left corner, is just for me, for organization. This is the first song I would use with them with the bells, for example. Okay, but not a lot of information here. It doesn't have the metric 4/4. Why? Because my student doesn't need that information to play a song with me. And other kinds of adaptations, right? Like I told you, the instruments I show you today, all those are adaptations. I would say that the adaptation I use the most in my class is color and size. Color and size. All right, so prompts and fading. Prompts, my student prompts is basically a help. When you see the word prompt, think about help. Think about support. Prompts are basically use supports to help the students and gradually remove them. So you're giving them some kind of support or help in order for them to achieve the goal or the objective you want them to do, which could be playing the bells, playing what the song I just showed you, right? Could be that, could be your objective. I'm gonna talk about this in my next slide, but you can go from most restrictive to least restrictive. And you always want to use the least ones. Okay? Basically, what that means is you want to give the student as little help as they need. Okay? You want them to do it by themselves. If you give them too much help, they're going to rely on you to play. If you give them too many, not enough help, they're not going to be able to play. So you want to achieve a balance there. And you want to give them the least one because you want them to be independent. You want them to be able to do them by themselves. So there are three ways you can do it. You can do it physically, visually, or verbally. And I'm going to give you examples of that. So this is the hierarchy, right? The physical prompts are the most restrictive because you're physically managing the student to play the instrument. Modeling, that's one we all do. All do that. We just basically show the student how to do it. Visually, gestural is just could be pointing. I'm going to give you examples of that, pointing. And verbally, you just give the student a verbal instruction. So the physical, and I'm going to give you examples here. You can do full physical. For example, if you're playing the bells, I'm going to use the bells. And hand over hand is basically you're going to take the student's hand and move the hand around and play the bell, right? And play the bells. In this case, let's say we're playing desk bells, right? You need to grab them by the handle. You're playing desk bells like this, right? So you basically grab the student by the hand and do a full physical, hand over hand. This is called hand over hand. Partial physical is, for example, you start the movement and you let the student finish it. Okay? You pick the hand, and instead of doing the full movement, you just pick the hand and let the student finish the movement. Okay? All right? You're starting to fade away the help. Light touch is basically, sometimes it could be a tap on the elbow or a tap on the hand, right? Sometimes what I would do is just let me see if I can do it right. Just move the hand around, move, and just move the hand on top of the bell, and he would do that. Or just give it a little push, right? Give it a little push of the hand. This is the note, and he plays the note, right? Or shadow, something just without touching the hand. All you do is like move it over here, and he plays. Okay, now move it over here without touching him, and he plays. So those are the physical prompts. Full hand over hand. You start the movement, and you let the student finish it, or just light touch, like, okay, here, all right, here, here, okay? Visual prompts, modeling. That one, we know that one. It's just perform their behavior, perform whatever you want them to do. If you're playing the drums, this is how I want you to play the drums with, right? Alternating hands like this. 1, 2, 1, 2. Positional, just place the correct answer closer to him. If we're using bells, again, I'm going to use the bells. I'm going to use this, for example. I have to do this, and I'm telling the student, in this case, I'm going to use the example of colors. Touch red. So I'm going to put red closer to him, right? I'm going to tell him, touch red. And the student is going to go, okay, very good. Touch yellow. All right, very good. So just putting the correct answer closer to him. That's positional. If you're doing it, for example, if you're doing it with bells, you're going to place the bell you want him to play closer to him. He plays the bell, and then you put the next bell you want him to play closer to him. And gestural, it could be just pointing. Play this, play here, play here, play here. It could be pointing to the bells. If we keep the same example, pointing to the bell you want him to play, the red bell, orange bell, yellow bell. Or it could be pointing to the paper, in the paper. Okay, we're here, play this note, play this note, play this note, play this note. And that's something we all have been doing it as music teachers forever, since the beginning. And then the last one is the verbal. And I'll give you an example. Let's say a word, let's use the word. For example, I'm going to use my name, Tomas. So if I want a student to say my name, say, hi, Tomas, I would say, for example, my name is Tomas. Tomas. I would say the whole word, Tomas. And he would try to repeat it, Tomas. Partial is just say part of the word, to. And he would finish it, mas. To, mas. To, mas. Or just say the first sound of the word, right? Like, what is my name? And he would say Tomas. Very good. Okay, so that's verbal prompt. Saying the whole word, Tomas, part of the word, to, and he finished. Or phonetic, just the first sound, t, and he would say the whole word, t, Tomas. Now to finish the presentation, I'm going to give you some general advices of working with students with severe disabilities in your music classroom. Again, from my experience and my perspective. There's a lot here. In this next section, you're going to see a lot written down, but I did it on purpose. Why? Because I know you're going to have this presentation later. And you can read it in more detail. You can think about it, about each bullet, right? So that's why I wrote that many things. So one of the things I have found is that, again, not with all my students, but I would say most of them, they learn things the first time and that's it. They recorded that in their mind. This is it. I do it like this, and this is it. And they put it in the, and they store it, right? And that's it. But let's say, for example, because we're humans and you did it wrong and you missed a step or something went wrong and they learned it the wrong way, it's very difficult to change that. it's very difficult for them to understand that you're not going to do it this way anymore. You have to do it like this. So if you're going to teach them something, try to do it right the first time. Try to avoid errors and try them to understand it well the first time. Okay, because later it's going to be very difficult to change that. Working with severe students, you're working with a lot of constraints and limitations. And it's going to ask a lot about being creative and thinking outside the box. I mean, I didn't understood that term when I started thinking outside the box, but now I feel like I'm so outside the box, so far away from the box that I don't know. I, I don't know where is the box. I don't know what is the box anymore, because you have to work very outside of of what you have learned traditionally, and you could see that with all the instruments and the music technology presentations, how I like to use all these things that are not designed for music education in different ways with them. You want to have in mind, you want to keep in mind that age does not determine cognitive or emotional development and maturity in students. I have students that are 22 years old and they like male students, 22 years old, and they like, uh, let's say, Disney movies or cartoons or The Wiggles or Barney, things like that. Okay? Um, you try to be age appropriate. Okay? That's what you want to do. You want to be age appropriate. But you have to work with the students and what he likes, and you have to have in mind that he may have 22, but emotionally or cognitive, he may be, I don't know, 10, 5, 15, you know? So you have to have that in mind. If you don't know the students very well, ask the staff about things he likes, he doesn't like, because you may end up triggering a behavior you don't want or you're trying to avoid, everyone is trying to avoid. And this happens. I mean, it's we're humans again. And if we don't know the student, we may say something or show him something or do something that the student doesn't like and may end up in some behavior. So if you're not sure about something, ask. Ask the teacher, ask the staff who is working with him, or just read the IIP, right? That's all the student information is right there. And you can take from the IIP, you can also take skills from them and integrate it into your music class. You can learn a lot from the IIP from your students, and you should read the IIP of your students. I mean, laminate your materials. I laminate everything because they tend to last a lot, and you can use them later next year. Okay, structures. Whatever activity you do with them, it has to be very structured, very organized. It has to be a very clear beginning and ending. Okay, you're gonna do this. You're gonna play this way, this many times. Okay, we're gonna play this song with the decibels 3 times. Right? Very specific. Very specific. Why? Because open-ended or free activities are very difficult for them. Okay, they struggle with that. Especially, for example, I know that some methodologies, some music activities from methodologies, I think, for example, that cross, right? Eurythmics. There's some activities that are more free, right? I'm gonna play these sounds on the piano, and you're gonna react to them, and you can do whatever movement you want to them. Or I'm gonna play this song, and when I go like this, forte, you're gonna improvise a movement of forte. Those activities could be challenging for them because they don't know how. What do I need to do? How do I need to do it? What do you expect from me? Right? They need to know those things. It's going to take a long time to develop trust with them. Again, Not with everyone, but in general, it takes time to develop trust. So you have to pair with them. There are some students that you're going to pray right away. On the first class, they love you, and you're the favorite person for the rest of the year. But there are some other students that are going to take weeks, months, maybe years for them to know you and trust you and like you. And that's the way it is. Right? You do everything you can in your power to like them and pair with them and all that, but that's the way it is. And one thing that I have found that works well with me, it's you need to demonstrate them and show them that they're going to be able to do the things that you ask them to do. That's one way they're going to learn how to trust you. If you can demonstrate to them that you're going to play the desk bells, I'm going to help you, I'm going to do it with you, and you're going to, by the end of the class or in whatever, you're going to play the bells. And once they do it, they start to trust you because, oh, okay, this guy means business. He says he's going to do something and he does it. Again, this one ties up to the first bullet here. Some students may not like your class or you, and that's okay. I mean, it could be any kind of reason, right? Maybe they had a very bad experience with the previous music teacher or another music teacher, and you are a music teacher, so they pair you with that bad experience. Or maybe it's just behavior. There's something behavioral that does not let them like your class. It's something in the middle. Okay, so again, when you're teaching students with severe disabilities, my students have it's very challenging for them to express emotion. Again, not all of them, but most of them. It's difficult for them to express emotion. So, and they pay attention very differently. For example, and this is real. I have students that have come to my class for 4 straight classes, and I think they're not paying any attention. They're just looking to a roof, doing another thing, stimming, or not paying attention, or I'm just struggling with them, trying to make them pay attention, doing everything I can. And I think, well, he's not learning that much. I'm trying, but I don't think he's paying that much attention to the class. And then all of a sudden, in the 5th class, he does everything perfectly. So he was paying attention. He was paying attention and understanding what you were telling him. It was just that there was something in the middle that was giving him a challenge or making it difficult for him to pay attention, or maybe that's his way of paying attention. Just not looking at you is his way of paying attention, because he's concentrating on what he's hearing and not on what he sees. Okay, so that so again, if maybe you think they're not paying attention, they are. Again, facial, exactly. The second bullet is the same, facial expressions. Work with what they like, appeal to what they like, okay? That's going to be a very good beginning with them. That's going to open the door to a lot of things with them and help you pair with them and help with the trust and help with all that. One of the things I use in my class, I didn't talk about that, but I just want to mention it. Concept anchoring routine, which is basically, and I think maybe you have used this before. Relate a new concept to a concept they already know, and use that concept that they know very well to help them relate to the new concept and match them, right? Again, concrete, make things concrete. That's why I like the coding, right? Coding jam with the blocks is concrete. They can hold it in their hand. They can manipulate it, right? It's concrete. Individualized instruction, if in any way that you can. use consistent language and instructions. One thing that we use as musicians and teachers, we already use, but I keep it more consistent with my students, is when we're gonna play again, if we go to the decibels, when we're gonna play a song, I always count them for counting, and I do it like 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm giving them visual prompt, not only with the finger, with the movement of the hand, and I'm giving also a verbal prompt. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I start every activity with that count of 4. Okay, because basically the metric I use with my students is 4, right? I don't use 3, I don't use 6, say that it's still too complex for them. I use 4. So I base all my music activities on 4. And with time, I have seen that no matter what I do, if I keep the count, that's their prompt that we're gonna start. Get ready, and I don't have to do anything. I don't have to say anything. All I have to do is 1, 2, and whatever they're doing, they start doing it, and they look at me, and they're getting ready to start. But it's gonna take, maybe with typical students, it may take a couple of classes for them to understand that. With my students, may take months, maybe years, okay? But they get there, they do get there. And use short and simple instructions. Try to explain things in very simple, short sentences, short phrases, very simple words. Because if you try to explain things, long explanations, you're gonna lose them. Keep it short, keep it simple. And repeat, 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 repeat. Okay, keep repeating it, keep repeating it. And last one. If there's something I want you to keep in mind from this, are these bullets here. They learn differently. They need more time to process and learn. Keep your activities short and less activities for them. Work one skill at a time. Sometimes you may need to pre-teach some skills, right? For example, I'm gonna go back to my clapping. I'm working that. Some of my students, because it's an ABA environment, they're used to, when they have to the demand of saying, okay, clap, that's clapping. And that's clapping for them. If I tell them, okay, we're gonna clap, they're gonna do. Because that's their concept of clapping. You ask clapping, this is clapping. What else do you want? You ask clapping, this is clapping. So I have to teach them that for us in music, clap is only one. Okay? Not this. It's just one. So even before starting the rhythm activities, or even before starting to clap 2 times, 3 times, whatever, I have to teach them that in music class, we clap once. Not like this. And that takes a lot of time. Again, if we go back to how I was telling you that they learned something the first time, and it's very difficult to change that. They already know. They learn that when they say clap, they're going to do this and not this. So it takes time, and it's difficult to change that. It's not impossible. It just takes time. And speak slow, clear, and use less words. And again, the sections of your class or activities should have very distinct, clear beginnings and endings. And if you keep a schedule, it's going to help them understand what they did, what they're doing, what comes next, and how long it takes to finish your class, your activity, or whatever you're doing with them. And that's it. That's the last one.
Thank you, Tomas. There is one question in the Q&A that you might want to.
Okay, where is it?
So the question uh, is the template for Eau Claire de Lune something you created or a template that is
Yeah,
online?
no, I created that. I created that. Um, I have I have found some similar ones on the internet, um, but that one specifically, I made that one. I created that one.
Are there any other questions? I'll put the video on. Are there any other questions that
Stop
people
this.
have that they would like to share with Tomas before we wrap up for the day and before we thank him? Let's just give it a moment in case folks are typing things in
Yeah,
or raising their hands.
Emily. Yeah, I'm reading your comment here about the weather. Yeah, I had a student that when it rains, he thought that the sun would disappear, never come back,
Oh,
and he would. That would be a very difficult day for him and for us.
I can imagine. While we're waiting for questions, let's please thank Tomas Marquez for the time this afternoon. Just fantastic, so much valuable information. And Tomas is going to send me his materials so that I can get them out to everybody in our big post-session email. So thank you for all that we accomplished today. So much here that we can all take and adapt to our own settings. Here,
Okay, I see a couple of.
Logic or Band Lab? Have you
Yeah,
used?
I haven't used BandLab, but I use Logic. I mean, when I use a human piano with the Makey Makey, that's what I use for the loops. Logic and Mainstage, which are from Apple, right? Logic and Mainstage, yeah. Um, but if I'm gonna use some kind of DAW, I use GarageBand, which is simpler. I use Logic for me. If I'm doing an activity that I want to set up something for me so they can play it over there, that's how I may use Logic. But if not, if I'm working with them, it's GarageBand.
So I was just putting in the chat, there are folks at our institute who use Band Lab quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I also see here in the comments that they were commenting a lot about failing, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's important because you can't imagine how many times I have failed. Even this week, there's a couple of classes. There was a class this week that I finished a class and I said, "Why am I doing this?"
Oh, no.
Right? This is I feel like the worst teacher ever. But the next class was fine. The next class was perfect, and the students did everything. It was beautiful and all that. But that's the way it is. You have to allow yourself to fail. But it's what you do after it, right? You have to go back, analyze what happened, behaviors. What's it mean? What's it something in the environment, right?
And we'll
And then
management with Vicky in a
yeah,
couple.
okay, yeah,
A question, is there a certain program or app that you use when you make your visuals?
Pages from
Hey,
Apple.
all right, you're
And
an
you're starting to see the pattern, right? Apple, Apple, Apple. Yeah, I use a lot of Apple things. I use Pages because for me it's easier than Microsoft. I don't like Microsoft Word, so I use Pages. And I also have like a couple. I have um, more things you can do with it. Easier. It's just that it.
Yes, Emily. Constant failure, deep regret, and existential doubt.
Yeah,
On a happy note, right?
yeah.
Absolutely. Tomas, I want to thank you for this fabulous experience for our attendees. I think this is just amazing. So thank you. I'm going to
Thank
go
you.
and do some logistics. You are welcome to stay. You're also welcome to get some rest. You've just been presenting for
All
a while.
right. Can I say just thank you for everyone uh, to listening to me the whole afternoon. I hope something here you like all I show you and you get some things from here you can use in your classroom and to your benefit. So thank you again, and thank you, Dr. Bernard, for the invitation.
Thank you, Tomas. We really appreciate it. Folks in the study group, let's take a quick look around projects, just to the last little thing for us before we call it a day. And that is, I had mentioned that there are these Google Sheets. So rather than make this feel mythical and mysterious, in the post session link emails that I send out every Monday. And I've now learned after the first day when it bounced back that I have to divide it up into 2 separate messages because some of the mail servers out there reject messages with too many attachments. You will get a link to this spreadsheet. It's there every single time. This is a document, I should say, where you are to put your name and some thoughts about what you might want your project to do. And then I respond to you in purple. And I check this every few days. So you should check back and look for my responses. So there's all different ideas here that people have put in. We know that your idea will morph and change as you work with it. You don't need to keep updating the sheet. We just want to get you started off in a way where you're thinking about something that is a strong application of what we've been doing to your teaching and that is manageable. I don't want someone to try to bite off too much that they won't be able to chew. So just to sort of have the scale feel right. But as you can see, these are some great ideas. So for example, I would like to look at how to make the music classroom more inclusive when it is in a hybrid setting. I would like to look at how kids playing in an orchestra can help students focus. There was one about technology. I'd like to explore the technology to assist musicians with visual impairments. I would like to explore ways to make my 1st through 3rd grade violin classes more accessible. It goes on and on and on, many different ideas. The most important thing is that it's relevant to your practice and that it takes something from what we're working on and is a direct application. So I look forward to reading more of those as additional people input their ideas. Otherwise, this is the close of today's afternoon session. Watch your email on Monday. You'll get probably 2 messages with the links to the recordings and all of the resources, a link to a Google document for you to do the between session engagement where you reflect on what we're doing. Looks just like the one I just sent you, only says a different thing at the top. And then the project spreadsheet as well. I keep calling it a spreadsheet. It's a Google Doc, the project doc as well, that you can put that information in. So thanks to everyone. Thanks to Laura for her help. And we will see you again in 2 weeks. And as you know, the information and link for that session will go out on Thursday of the week of. So 2 weeks from now, the date is April 17th. So you can expect it on the Thursday, the 15th in your email. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. And thanks to Tomas and Laura.